Okay, good morning, everyone. Today is Thursday. It is April Fool's Day, 2021, and this is a conversation with Dr. Dan Mathews, and we're recording the call. It will be reference number 295 if you wish to listen to a recording of this call. Reference number 295, and the way you get to that call is you dial in 515-604-9697. My name's Linda Starr. I will be taking any questions you have for Dr. Dan today, and you can text questions to me at 713-622-8900, 622-8900. And I also can send you a list of all the previous 10 recordings if you'd like to listen to those. And just text me your questions and requests for a list of recordings. Okay, I'm not going to absorb any more time here because Dr. Dan has a full agenda for us today. So go ahead and take it over, Dr. Dan.
Oh, well, thank you, Linda, and thank everyone on the phone today. I'm so honored to be in your presence and to share a wonderful April Fool's story with you today. But I'm not fooling. I'm telling my truth here today. But anyway, my story today is going to be a vast subject of life and perhaps something new that you've never heard before. And I learned all this on my sacred path that I've been on since August of '94, and just took a heat stroke and a trip to the other side of the veil and an encounter with crystal light beings and anointment in light, and sent back to the planet with a wonderful gift and a beautiful story to share. And this was the beginning of my yellow brick road, that I had to show up and take my step in trusting the divine flow of life every day to get the next step. It was never handed to me ahead of time. And I always had to demonstrate my trust in the divine source, and that always opened the door. And so that's kind of the way that my process progresses and is perpetuated. But anyway, I want to tell you today about a beautiful thing that we are, and how things got to be the way they are, and from where we started, and why was this necessary. I have an explanation for all of that, and if we have time at the end, I'd love to have your questions. But what I have found from a story inscripted in the crystal lattice of our Holy Spirit, which is our electromagnetic field, everyone has one. And if you're alive, you have one. And it's an amazing thing, this electromagnetic field. It's a microcosm of a cosmos, meaning it's a small scaled down, complete total replica of a cosmos. And that's what our Holy Spirit of our divine feminine is. And within that crystal lattice is the story of life. And absolutely knew nothing about this prior to my trip to the other side of the veil, and so let me tell you what it says. And what I have found is every single person I've ever worked on for 25 years of doing this has a inscription of a holy order that they were a part of, an ancient world on this earth before we became human. And in that ancient world, we were holy beings of the holy O, and we had a knowing consciousness. And the holy O was a 9-cluster geometric layout it's called the 9 clusters of the all that is of the holy O, and it's a model of life. O is whole, and in cosmic mathematics, it is the largest number. Every number, no matter how big it is a fracture of O. 1 is the first fracture. But O is whole, and when you are of the holy O, you have a knowing nine-cluster mechanism of the all that is of the Holy O is composed of 62 million plus oniverses, O-N-I-V-E-R-S-E. And an oniverse is 10 times bigger than a universe, a U-N-I. And each oniverse has 763 cosmos, and each cosmos has 15 galaxies. And within the 9 billion, within the 9 cluster, all that is of the Holy O, are over 6 billion plus Earths. And they exist in all times, in all directions, because they're whole. And they all exist now. And so we can access planets in this structure for our healings. And we'll get to that maybe a little bit later. But this is a very vast, vast thing that I'm talking about here. And its integration into your consciousness was sealed through the first step of your creation. Everybody on this planet, creation into this order of the Holy O that existed in an ancient world before we became human, started out as a divine thought of a council of divine beings from the Holy O temples of the neutron stars. And this divine thought created your holographic seed before the neutral zone. And then this holographic seed, it migrates into the neutral zone, and then it metamorphoses into 9 pulses of creation. And these 9 pulses are destined to be the 9 knowing centers of our brain. And these 9 pulses are always in perfect calibration and synchronicity with the 9 clusters. And that keeps us in our true matrix, where we are in our holy order always. And then at the dawn of creation, these 9 pulses of our creation create the crystal lattice of our Holy Spirit and the inner web that connects this crystal lattice to the Holy O temples of the neutron stars. And then at our conception in this life, that magical moment, 9 months before your date of birth, your 9 pulses of creation and this electromagnetic field of your Holy Spirit synthesize your soul body of your flesh, your divine masculine. And initially there were the 15 galaxies of it. Well, initially there were 13 galaxies in this cosmos, and their gifts of creation to this new soul was to have 13 components of divinity inside its soul vessel that gave the soul body also a knowing consciousness. And the ego body in our holy order, it monitors the soul vessel and integrates this knowing consciousness into the divine masculine through infinite expressions of appreciation, approval, and acceptance. And so all aspects of the 9 clusters were integrated into our consciousness, and that gave us our 7th level of consciousness known as goddess conscience. And this is a component of our knowing, and so this was just an amazing world we live. Well, somewhere along the way, this life, this 700 million year life continuum in this 9 cluster mechanism, we started wanting an expansion of the 13-dimensional matrix of heaven on earth that we were living in at that time. And throughout that whole 700 million years, we wanted this matrix to be expanded, and we did not understand that you cannot expand a matrix. The full concept of a matrix has to be installed into the first stone that is laid. And so once they're created, they cannot be expanded, but you can disassemble them and make new ones. But we didn't understand this. And through wanting this expansion so bad, we broke our brown ray, which is one of our 3 primary rays. This particular one anchors our spirit body of our crystal lattice to our root chakra. And this was a bad boo-boo. And before we could break anything else, it was decided by the plan of grand design that we needed to acquire understanding to go with our knowing. And so the plan of grand design came up with this plan to bring in a planet from a system of one outside of the 9 clusters to make this school of understanding. So they brought in this planet. It had 87 life forms on it. And the captain of that ship is Yahweh, the God of the Old Testament, the God of one. And to accommodate this school, this particular Oniverse that we're in this earth, a tenth of it was fractured off to create the universe. This was the Big Bang, in order to house this human school of understanding that we call the downfall world. And we call it that because to attend, you have to check your knowing consciousness in at the door and consent to have your Trinity disassembled. And then you get to have one life lesson after the next, and if you learn your lesson, you acquire understanding. And that was its purpose. And so we've been going through this since the dawn of time. And with 250-member soul family, which are the actors of our lives' play. And as you can imagine, it gets all beat up. Your adversaries and friends and loved ones and enemies are all a part of your 250-member soul family. And you change relationship, gender, race. We've done it all. And it's all in our shadow world that we drag along behind us. And so this is the human downfall world. That's what we call it. It's a school of understanding. It's a world of belief where the consciousness of this world is now belief. Well, when we first broke our brown ray, we landed in the very first paradigm. That's when one dimension of reality calculates into your consciousness. It's a world based on that, and its characteristics, behavior are death, destruction, killing, war, mayhem, carnage, etc., etc. It's barbarianism. And these are the beings of unbelief. And then the second paradigm, one step up, that's when 2 dimensions of reality go into your consciousness, and that characterizes duality, hypocrisy, and polarization of the collective. And its characterized behaviors are robbing, stealing, cheating, lying, and politics. And so those are the dimensions of unbelief. Those beings are barbaric, and they're dangerous to themselves and others. And the first step up the ascension ladder was the creation of religion. And that's the religions of the world. And their purpose through their belief of their dogma and is to indoctrinate these beings of unbelief with a consciousness of a higher power and perhaps a savior model. And this is what it takes to bring people up to the third paradigm, which is where the religions based that are the belief generators of the world are situated. And because this was an expansion of consciousness, it created a bigger picture over what the barbarians had when we were barbarians. It healed their problems. And that's the whole secret of life, is how to heal problems, is you have to make a bigger picture based on higher consciousness. And there your answer lies. All of a sudden you see things in a new light. You come to a higher level of understanding, and you get out of your jam. And that's a beautiful thing. That's what higher consciousness does. Well, we lived like this for a long, long time, and everything about us became its opposite. When we were of the 9 clusters in our original world, our unconscious was connected to these 9 clusters and had always kept us in our divine matrix, and life was always good. Well, that got blown up at the dawn of time. When the Big Bang happened, we got disconnected from our inner divinity, and we started thinking God was outside of us. And this is what made us a shadow, was we lost our light, and we lost our knowing and divine love from our cosmic consciousness of our inner divinity. And everything changed. We went into initially unbelief and then belief consciousness, which is much, much better than unbelief. It's the first step of ascension, but through the ages, we've now accumulated so many problems based on this level of consciousness that it's now time that we expand again and return to our former holy order. And see, that was the purpose of belief, was to raise people up to the third paradigm. And that's religion's contribution to ascension, and I'm very grateful for that. And see, in life, there's three fuels of consciousness now that we are ascending up the ladder. And, I'm getting a little ahead of myself. Let me say that on September the full moon of 2015, just as that full moon was going into full eclipse, a switch was flipped on the dark side of the moon that started a 6-year exodus of the downfall world off of the earth, out of people. And so we've been going through this purging of our shadow for 6 years now this September. And our world has been really crazy and chaotic, and that's the reason. But to understand that, you got to live in a bigger picture. If you're in belief consciousness, you only get triggered because that's what's coming up is the creations of your belief. And see, there's three levels of fuel of our consciousness. The first is knowing, and that only comes from your inner divinity, the Lord of your being that supplies you with cosmic consciousness, your special blend of divine love and knowing that gives you enlightenment and allows you to actualize your divine expressions, comes from your inner divinity. And knowing consciousness is an attribute of that. Well, knowing consciousness is supreme. It always heals ignorance. It always works for you. And it always allows you to live in a bigger picture of life so that all of the other things that are happening, you have understanding and you understand the purpose of it and why it's necessary. That's a beautiful place to be. Our second best level of the fuel of consciousness is understanding, and that's what you get from comprehending your life lessons. And understanding also comes from developing a expertise in a certain area of life, like something you studied and did for 30 years. You'll understand all about it. And other things that are things that you'll have understanding of. And you can also get understanding from education. When understanding, like knowing, you can heal ignorance with it. It works real good. Well, the third type of fuel, and it's about the things you neither know or understand, is belief. And belief is thin ice. It is your opinion about the parts of life you don't know about or understand. So, fat chance it's going to be truthful. And the big problem is that belief is the programming of our negative ego, and it defends and justifies the belief it forces on ourselves by doling out fear, pain, and punishment. And fear will cause anxiety and worry, and pain makes depression and anger, and punishment creates suffering. And that's the path you go down when problems come your way in life. And you try to figure it out and do it yourself. You're going down the path of your beliefs and a butt-kicking of your negative ego. How do you avert all of that is by learning to live the parable of being a Christed being. A Christed being does not go there trying to figure it out itself. It simply surrenders the whole 9 yards to its higher power, which is its inner divinity. And all you got to do to pay for that is to yield to the will of your inner holiness, meaning become mindful and listen for the whispering voice and the gut knowing that your inner holiness gives you and obey it. And thirdly, show up in your day without apprehension and worry and take your next step trusting the divine flow of life. When you put those 3 steps together, a door to miracles will open into your life, and the most amazing things will happen. Opportunity and goodness will come your way, and it's a beautiful way to live, and it takes the pressure off of you. And really what it does, it's about learning to integrate your shadow with your light. When you do the parable of Christ consciousness, you have put yourself in the posture to be shown, told, and led by your inner holiness. And you can't beat that. That's the ultimate. When you're doing it yourself, you're telling the Holy Order what it's allowed to be through your belief, or you're not going to accept it. And it's the most knuckleheaded thing we can do. You're lucky to get a drop in your bucket when you take that path. So this brings us up to where we are today. And what we're doing today, we're in the first stages of ascension, which is purging our shadow. And to do that with dignity and grace, you have to learn to live in the bigger picture. And you do that when you live the parable of Christ consciousness, which is what I just explained to you. And this allows you to stay in a bigger picture where all things in the lesser picture you can understand and see the puppet show of what's going on. And you can maintain great hope for a new holy order to come. And the power of the Holy O that's fueling this purge is supposed to be ending in September. And that does not mean that all purging stops on the next moon cycle of September. It means the energy that pushes that is no longer going to be there. And I don't know how long it takes this ship to stop or turn around. We'll find out. And we have, there's 2 other, and you see there's a new Holy O Earth right around the corner that we can't take our human shadow world stuff with us too. And that's why it's got to go. And this new holy order, and see, our shadow world is the first, second, and third paradigms. We've had, most people have had between 6 and 12 million incarnations in those low paradigms since the Big Bang at the dawn of time when we became human. So there's a lot of crap in there. And to get it all out in 6 years is a tumultuous task. And I don't think you got to be perfect to do this, is what I'm saying, because I don't see any way it can all get taken out. But, hey, I've had a sacred path for 25 years, and I'm definitely not perfect. I just know how to live the parable and let the Lord lead me, and you can do the same. Everybody can do this. It only requires that you take responsibility for your problems and you desire victory over your pain and misery more than you got to be right or win. And you can do the same thing. It's a surrender. Surrender, yield, and trust is incredible. And to go from a being of belief consciousness to a being that trusts in its inner holiness, you have to live the parable. And trust is what bridges belief to become knowing. What you trust in your divineness of life, you get to know about right down the road. But you have to trust first. But you can learn to do this. It's like riding a bike. You couldn't do it the first time you tried, but if you persisted, you learn how to do it. Okay, and then I want to say that right around the corner is a new Holy O Earth that starts at the 6th paradigm. And that's a reality of consciousness where 6 dimensions are calculated into thought. And that allows you to share a common reality with others and to agree upon what you're looking at and to have common solutions to fix problems and to have positive feelings as the result of experiences in life with others. And that sounds awesome to me. And that's where it starts, and it goes all the way through 999 to the power of 7th paradigm 2.0. And that's our new playground. And it's just right around the corner. Well, between where we are now and getting there, we're going to have to go through the Armageddon event and the rapture, which turn out to be positive things if you understand them from a knowing perspective. And Armageddon turns out to be the end of the world of belief consciousness. And the rapture turns out to be a redistribution into the 8 new civilizations of the Holy Old Earth that are free of the shadow world, and they place people in the perfect environment for their continued ascension. And that's going to be amazing. And then that'll be followed up by an apocalypse where people will have their awakening, where they go from belief to knowing, and they'll get to perceive the illusions of life that they thought were true, that were really the illusions of their belief. They'll have that awakening. And so that's kind of laying it all out there, the divine story of life, and it puts the downfall world in its perspective and the big picture of things. It's like summer camp we went to. But there's a lot more to things, and it's from this bigger picture that we can heal the little picture. And all of our problems are from our shadow world. We can heal them by going to the future of these 6 billion Earths, taking things apart, removing all of the human shadow world stuff from those parts, and then putting those parts back into your divine expression of your holy order will lift all the chaos off of you. And that's what we do in our healing sessions. But I just wanted to put all that out there, and now I'll take questions.
All right. Wow. The whole history of the universe in less than 30 minutes flat. I'm impressed.
The 9 clusters, a little bit bigger.
Yeah, bigger. Yeah,
it's a lot to get your mind around.
It is a lot, but you keep reminding us, and they say human beings have to hear something 6 times before we learn it. So I feel like some of this is finally penetrating my consciousness. Okay, so I'm open for your questions. If you have some, text them to 713-622-8900, 622-8900. Okay, the first question today is our Holy Spirit, the divine feminine that has all this past history embedded in it, in the crystal lattice, is that the same thing as the Akashic records?
When I ask about that, I get that you see, there's 2 parts of us that are eternal. We are a trinity. We're a flesh body with a pulse that has an energy field around it. Well, the flesh body is the only part that dies, and it dies when the energy field and the pulse leave it. But those 2 things are eternal. And we are always the same ones we are right now, and they have recorded everything. And I get that the recordings of the pulse is the Akashic records, but I get to read the inscriptions in the crystal lattice, and I don't know what they're called. That's just what I call them, inscriptions in the crystal lattice. Everyone I've ever worked on has them. I wish other people read them. There may be other people that read them, because you don't like to be the only person doing something. That doesn't sell real well in the public. It kind of qualifies you as being crazy or something.
Mm-hmm. Okay, the second question is, you said there are 6 billion Earths. So are there 6 billion planet Venus? Are there 6 billion planet Mars, Pluto, or we don't know about that?
Yeah, there's a lot more of everything than we thought. There's constellations and all of them, but I'll tell you this, the physics and sacred geometry for each universe, and there's 62 million plus of them, is unique to each universe. But all of the cosmos, galaxies, and Earths in that universe will be the same. And each universe has a school that trains scientists to work on that stuff. They're called trons. They're cosmic scientists. And there's a tron school in the University of Andromeda and this cosmos. So, it's interesting. There's just more of everything than you imagine. and it's way beyond the universe. That's the little picture.
It's pretty arrogant for us to think we're the only ones here, isn't it? Just because we don't.
Well, that's what belief does to you. It forces you to only see the little picture. It makes you separate from others because of your differences, and we're only 3% difference. We're 97% the same. And so belief it's really a poor fuel of consciousness, and it makes you live in a world of illusion in order to just survive. It's definitely only superior to unbelief and barbarism, but there's way better, knowing and understanding, and your understanding will morph to wisdom if you become grateful for your lessons, but that usually takes a while to get over the sting of the lesson. But you can do a lot with wisdom and understanding, and learning to trust in your divinity. That's not about trusting other people. People have to earn your trust, but you trust your inner holiness from the get-go. And the more you trust in it, the more it's going to trust in you. And everybody has a sacred gift and a sacred path that only your inner holiness knows. And so it's essential that you have to connect. And it's through the parable of Christ consciousness that gives you a window to connect. So that's what it's all about.
Okay. Third question. You said we have 9 knowing centers in our brain. How many are we using now?
Well, I've seen people up to 30%, and I've seen people that are 10%. We've all heard the old saying that humans use 10% of their brain. Kind of goes along with that. And when the universe was fractured off of this omniverse, we went from 9 pulses down to 1 as humans. When you went from a holy being to a human being, you went from 9 pulses to 1. Your holy old life fractured into 10. You have the one you're in here, and everybody has 9 parallel lives that are all happening in other places and times, and that's all made possible because of those 9 billion Earths that exist in all times. And so you can really navigate the universe using the model of the 9 clusters, like double warp speed, So, did I answer that question? Maybe not. What was the question?
I don't know. It was good. We enjoyed it. Somebody, if it wasn't clear, someone will send a follow-up question. I got a little lost in the sauce there. So if that triggered a question for you, please text it in. All right. Question number 4 is, you said we are going to the 6th paradigm, hopefully at some point, and that when we have that, we would have shared realities, common solutions, and positive feelings. I'm sure some of us are feeling that now. So, yeah. I mean, does that mean at some time we're enjoying the 6th dimension or the 6th paradigm in today?
It certainly does. They're like radio stations. And your feeling is the barometer of where you're at. And when you have positive feelings, more dimensions of reality are calculating into your consciousness, and negative feelings is less. And so the higher up this paradigm ladder you go, the more positive your thought and feeling become, and that's very much related. Okay. So
as I begin to feel better, and as I purge more of my shadow, I'm going to begin to resonate at a higher frequency. It's gonna become more baseline for me, so to speak.
Your perception of life will totally change. You won't see things the way you see them when you're in the human shadow world mode. You're seeing things on a very linear low level. You know, when you have positive feelings, you see things from a higher perspective. So it's always better to take counsel from positive feelings instead of fear stuff, because that really limits your options.
So if I'm bopping along in my day, the happy little camper, and then something happens, is that just an opportunity for me to purge more shadow every time I have an interruption in my bliss?
Well, it is, and, you know, to stay aware, and, you know, when you get frustrated, you lose consciousness and you play tapes. But to stay in awareness of what's going on is a higher perspective, and you always will come out better if you stay aware and don't get frustrated and start playing your destruction tapes. So you learn those things as you see yourself do it, and that's the beauty of an ascending consciousness. You know, getting your shadow world cleaned off of you, because it really weighs heavily your negative response to what you're experiencing in life. The past life stuff that people carry, you know, you have to have ways to clean that off of you. And I'm sure there's a bunch of them out there. Okay.
All right. Next question is, would you repeat the definition of apocalypse one more time?
Yeah, that's our awakening. And basically that's when we go from belief consciousness back to knowing, and so that we can see the truth in life. You know, truth is the 33rd paradigm. The downfall world is the first, second, and third. You know, our perception of truth in the shadow world is the illusion of our belief. And when we go from, that's what the apocalypse is going to be, the awakening of the individual, of when they go from belief back to knowing. And they'll get to, you know, have a little conscious understanding of the illusions that they thought were true when they were in their belief. So it liberates us. And so the apocalypse is a wonderful thing. It frees us from the shadow world as we enter the holy old earth, and which is really in a trinity of wholeness with all humanity and the inner earth, which is a beautiful thing. And putting these things in a trinity of wholeness is what we've been doing in our group healings, and working on the infrastructure of the new holy old earth. So it's all working great. We're purging our shadow as we live our daily lives, and we're making plans and helping in our sacred gifts and services to make a better world as we go forth into the new holy order.
All right. I have the last question here, so if you have a burning question, this would be a good time to send it in. So, all right. Do we constantly return to this earth when we reincarnate?
No, I find that there are people that are exceptions, and really a lot of people do that, and everybody has done that, but there's other options also. There's people that have been here, you know, not even 200 times. There's other people that have been here 15 million times. And if you're not here, you're off somewhere else, you know, and you might be doing service to a distant galaxy, or off into your home universe, or into another cluster of the nine. You know, there's all kinds of options. Your counsel, and you know, they figure all that out for you, and when you're there in your holy order, you know as much about it as they do. You're connected, and so but people definitely, you know, when I work on people, I treat lots of past lives that have been triggered, that are adding to the problem they're having in their reality right here, right now. And so everybody has a lot of that, but some people a lot more than others. So,
okay, more questions. Yay, we're doing well. Okay, more questions have come in. Here we go. What is happening with our healing in physical form?
Well, there's bases that you have to touch in the physical world to have a high quality of daily living. And to me, that's the goal, is to have a high quality of daily living. And that comes from living life in harmony with the laws of the natural world, and learning to like what likes you back in your lifestyle and diet, and learning what's required of you to stay in balance. We live in a toxic, hostile world, and the accumulation of the bad stuff can affect us over time. So you have to have meaningful ways to maintenance your good health in order to keep it there. And what I do, you see, when you was conceived and you was one cell of flesh, that one cell was pulsating, and then it started multiplying, and as long as they all beat on the same beat, the intelligence within you that only knows perfection is in total awareness, absolute control, and perfect is pretty much how people are created. And then, you're made for a wholesome, nurturing world, but you live in a toxic, hostile world. And over time, the insult of trauma will start to fracture your pulse. And as that process unfolds as you age, the intelligence within you, its purpose now is to control, coordinate, function, and heal your body while you live life. It starts losing its awareness of what's happening, and it starts having to rewire communications over compensatory pathways, because physical traumas actually throw circuit breakers in your neurological circuitry. And so this stuff starts to add up and compound. And so on occasion, you need to have your pulse resynchronized. It does wonders. And there's techniques out there that do that, things that work with the energetic body. And then the next thing is about this electromagnetic field. Everything about your physical, emotional, mental worlds are copied out of it. And its vulnerability is the emotional events that occur in your life experience. Positive feelings go right through it, but negative feelings get stuck. And they tend to congregate in certain places for each individual. It kind of makes your own fingerprint. And when that negativity reaches a certain critical mass, you're going to start having problems. And so you need to have methods of removing the blockages of negativity out of your electromagnetic field. Well, if you do those two things, learn how to eat right and how to treat yourself right, and you're going to have a high quality of daily living. In this country, people are trained to relate to their health in terms of being sick. And the medical profession's focus is your survival. They treat your disease and disorders, and they try to prevent you from getting disease and disorder by giving you a shot or something. And there's they can save your life in an instant. They give you a relief from a terrible symptom. Those are all good things, but they don't really promote your health and wellness in terms of quality of daily living. It can actually put you into a spiral of decreasing health, as you get on more and more medications or have surgical procedures. And the world would be served better if those two disciplines were more in balance. But we have a situation where the medical crisis management survival approach dominates our society and tries to the world. It's an economic thing, and in political circles that tends to dominate the world, and that's where we're at. So if you want to be healthy, you got to make it your own personal responsibility. You're not going to learn that through the media and stuff. They're going to promote the medical thing, and it's just different. Health and wellness, quality of daily living is a totally different field than treating disease and disorder and preventing diseases. It's just different. So you got to be responsible for that, and you have to go out of your way to do it. You have to learn to like what likes you back. That's the big thing. Okay, that's all of that.
Okay. I'm going to read this next question. It is, how is light years affecting us? And for clarification, she says, we heal in light years now. How does this work?
Yeah. The way it works is that when you heal, you're in harmony with the laws of life and the laws of healing, and you do travel in light years. You overcome things that you have been working on for several years or you inherited, and it's amazing how we change for the good a lot faster than how long it took us to get messed up. So in that respect, I think we do travel in light years. And being in harmony with life, it has a way of reversing all the damage that's been done to you. It's just incredible, the healing power of our being, if we get the obstructions out of the way and create the environment that allows spontaneous healing to unfold. You can't stop it. It's amazing.
Okay. My understanding of light years is that that's a physical distance. Is that accurate? I thought it was the distance light travels in 1 year. So, are we? I'm not understanding.
Yeah, if you looked at it in linear terms, you could, there is a standard of measurement they apply to that sort of thing in linear terms, but that only takes you as far as your belief. You get out of belief, life isn't linear anymore. So I guess all that stuff will be redefined, but they do have a measurement for it in man's world, man's science. So that's my answer to that.
Okay, so when you're referring to light years, we're not talking about the man world standard of measurement. It's another terminology. I just didn't realize. I was only familiar with the physical one, so it didn't quite make sense to me.
Okay, well, it's just there's an expression you use for things that are to allow you to understand the concept, but it doesn't take near as long to heal you as it does screw you up. If you want to call that light years, I understand that. If you're going to look at it like light traveling so many feet a second, it's kind of it has more than one definition. How about that? I can get that. It just takes less time to heal than to create the problem. Right.
Is what you're referring to. Okay, that's clear for me. Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Last question. If someone died today, would they go through an apocalypse-type experience?
I don't know the answer to that. It hasn't presented itself on my path.
Okay.
I don't know what the answer to that would be.
All right. Well, here are more questions. Regarding the purge, is this part of our Akashic records?
Well, it's a part of your shadow, and your Akashic records recorded that, and so there'll be a parallel with that for sure.
All right. And are we operating in multi-dimensionality?
And what tide?
Multi-dimensionality.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, but your mind is going to, it's going to see things depending on the fuel that it's running on. If it's running on belief, you're only going to be getting 1, 2, or 3 dimensions of reality into your thoughts. So you're not going to. Most of life is going to pass you by. But if you have knowing consciousness, you'll pick up a whole lot more than if you don't. And if you are aware and you understand, you'll pick up a lot more about what's happening right now than somebody that has no knowing or understanding. They're just in belief. They'll miss most of it. So, yeah.
For those of us who've been doing a lot of the purging and clearing over the decades, would you say that we're tapping into the 4th, 5th, and 6th paradigms now? Or we popping in and out of those? Or how, where are we if we kind of let go of a bunch of the belief and this other business? Do you have any idea where we're playing these days?
Well, like I say, the paradigms are kind of like radio stations. You can change channels, and you go through your day, and you can get triggered by something that takes you south, and you go down the paradigm ladder, and hopefully it doesn't take you long to overcome that and get back on your A game. But that can happen, and but I find that willingness to live the parable has the greatest impact on where you are in your ascension process. And because really it's all about illuminating your shadow with your light, that's your inner divinity, and yielding to the higher power. That's how you really climb the paradigm ladders. And it's a free ride. It's like you're piggybacking on the force that makes the world go round, and you don't have to do it. I mean, it's like the difference between having a green thumb and a PhD in photosynthesis. It really isn't your job to do that. Having a green thumb is going to work better, and that's the way the natural world is. The intelligence that makes it happen comes included, and you just have to have an efficient method of tapping into that. That's how you're going to get the biggest bang for your buck.
All right.
Yeah.
Here's our last question, and then I'm going to give some announcements. Can you provide some understanding about the 10 people who lost lives at the King Super in Boulder and the man who ended their life with a weapon?
Well, like I say, that only if things are on my path do I have understanding or knowing of what's going on there. And I'm just saying that's probably, if you had a bigger picture of all of that, there would be some sense made out of it. Is when I work on people that's had terrible things happen to them, what I usually find is that it comes from your soul family. Those people are probably all in the same soul family, and they've been doing treachery to one another for a long time, and yet they'll have friends and loved ones in that 250 amount also. And but I'm like anybody else. My feelings really go out to the victims and whatever the heck was going on with that person. I've got no studying of any of that. I'm busy working on what's in front of me, and so that's about just that generality is all I got to say about that.
So as we rise up above the battlefield, we begin to see where it's actually balancing out some old pattern that we just don't have access to right here, right now.
That's what it is. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're getting close to the end of our time today, so I wanted to let you know that there will be another group healing coming up. You want to give them the details of when that's going to be, Dr. Dan?
Yeah. We'll have 2 group healings this month, and let's see here. The month of April, we got a group healing on the Sunday the 11th and Sunday the 25th. Both of them will be at 2 p.m. in the afternoon Central Time. And you go on the internet to holydivinehealingstore.com, and you can figure that'll show you how to get signed up for it. But your sacred gifts are utilized to work on the trinity of wholeness of humanity, the holy old earth, and the inner earth as infrastructure for this new holy world that we're going into as this human downfall world comes to its end and we transfer over. But we're in the process right now of purging our shadow and also putting in infrastructure for a new holy order. So the holy order part we do in the group healing. So all of you are invited to try it out, see how you like it. Okay? Thank you.
All right. Yes, and is there either a phone number or an email address where people can communicate to be put on an email blast to find out about what's going on? That when I know I get emails, but I'm not sure where to send people to add their names to that list so they can be included on it. Do you have that?
Yeah, that's on the blog of the website, and I think the Holy Divine Healing store takes you there, and you can sign up to get the monthly. Well, really, it's every time before a group healing, I'll send out a letter kind of telling you what it's going to be about, and you have to sign up for it, and then you have to go down to the bottom and verify that you signed up. Otherwise, it'll go into spam, and a lot of people forget to do that. But that's how you do it. And I feel real unconfident when I start talking about technology because I don't do it.
Okay.
But that's my understanding of it. And if you have any problems, you can text my wife, who is the troubleshooter, at 501-416-1998. And she'll tell you how to do it.
Okay. And if you would like to schedule a private 1/2 hour appointment with Dr. Dan, you get to call his flip phone that accepts voicemail only, no texting. So you give Dr. Dan a call at 501-416-1996. That's 501-416-1996. And be sure to listen to a voicemail that he calls you back and gives you the available times before you give him a return call to set up your appointment. Okie doke. I want to thank everyone for being on our call today, and I believe we're going to declare this call complete. We will be back next Thursday, 10 o'clock to 11 a.m. Central Time. And you're welcome to text me questions. Thanks. Bye, everyone.